일단은 어제 러닝을 하다가 꼬마 치어리더들을 많이 봤는데
These days, I'm just thankful for everything. The fact that the seven of us are together. The fact that you guys are here in front of us.
Jimin and Jungkook, the bond they share is not something that can be captured in a single moment. It's something that has been built piece by piece, through years of shared experiences, quiet understanding, and a connection that feels almost instinctive. It started long before the fame, long before the world began watching their every move. Back when everything was uncertain, when the dream they were chasing felt fragile and distant. Jimin was trying to prove himself, pushing harder than anyone, carrying doubts he rarely spoke about. Every practice, every performance, every moment felt like a test he couldn't afford to fail. And Jungkook, even at such a young age, he saw more than he let on. He noticed Jimin's struggles, he noticed the effort, he noticed the moments when Jimin felt like he wasn't enough. But instead of saying something, instead of turning it into a big moment, Jungkook did something quieter. He stayed. Sometimes standing beside someone without words is the strongest form of support. And that quiet support became the foundation of something deeper. As time passed, as BTS began to grow, their bond evolved in ways that felt natural rather than forced. It wasn't defined by big, dramatic gestures. It was defined by consistency, by always being there. You see it in their playful dynamic, Jungkook teasing endlessly, pushing Jimin just enough to get a reaction, and Jimin responding, sometimes with mock annoyance, sometimes with laughter that feels completely unguarded. But beneath that playfulness is something much softer. Jungkook being the first to notice when Jimin is tired, Jimin instinctively moving closer to Jungkook in crowded spaces, small things but meaningful. There are moments that feel almost cinematic, not because they're dramatic but because they're real. A glance that lingers just a little longer than expected. A smile that feels personal, like it wasn't meant for anyone else. A quiet closeness that stands out even in the middle of chaos. And nowhere is that more visible than during concerts. The stage is loud, overwhelming, filled with energy that never slows down. Thousands of voices, flashing lights, constant movement, and yet in the middle of all that they find each other. Tampa was one of those nights where everything felt heightened. The atmosphere was electric, the crowd unstoppable, the energy almost too much to take in, but within that intensity, something softer unfolded. At one point, Jungkook and Jimin stood close, closer than the moment required. It didn't feel like part of the performance. It felt natural, like something that just happened without thought. Jungkook leaned slightly toward Jimin, his presence almost unconsciously drawn in, and Jimin didn't step away. Instead, he leaned in too, just enough to close that small space between them. It was subtle, but it was powerful. Later, as the performance continued, their connection became even more visible in the smallest ways. Jungkook's smile shifting when he looked at Jimin, becoming softer, more genuine. Jimin's gaze reflecting a kind of familiarity that only comes from truly knowing someone, not just their strengths, but their vulnerabilities, their habits. Their silences, there's a comfort between them that feels rare. A sense of ease that can't be created overnight. It comes from years of shared moments, both seen and unseen. They don't need to impress each other. They don't need to explain themselves. They simply exist side by side, and that's what makes their cozy moments so meaningful. It's not about grand gestures, it's about the quiet things, standing close without thinking. Brushing shoulders like it's second nature. Sharing laughter that feels real, not performed. It's simplicity. And in that simplicity, there's something deeply powerful. Through every era, every challenge, every change, they've remained a constant in each other's lives. Not perfectly, not without growth, but always with a sense of understanding that feels unshaken. Their bond isn't something that needs labels. It doesn't need definitions. It shows itself in loyalty, in comfort, in presence. And in a world where everything moves so fast, where connections can feel temporary, theirs feels steady, like something that continues no matter what. So when you see them together, even in a place as intense as Tampa, surrounded by thousands of voices and endless energy, you're not just watching two performers. You're witnessing something much deeper, years of trust, years of closeness, years of choosing to stay again and again without needing to say it out loud, and maybe that's what makes it so unforgettable. Because the strongest connections aren't always the ones that are explained, they're the ones you can feel even from a distance. The ones that stay with you long after the moment has passed. Jimin and Jungkook, the bond they share is exactly that. Quiet, enduring, and undeniably real.